day, everybody. It is Calxiyn here, and if you guys enjoy this video, you guys should go ahead and subscribe. Check out my Patreon if you guys want to support the channel directly, and take a look at my Twitter or my Discord server if you guys want to talk with me, engage with me more, all that type of stuff. So we are looking at a RWBY comic today, and I don't know if this necessarily lives up to the last one. I have some split thoughts on it, but you know, we'll get into it. And so this is Weiss escaping. Again, I don't show all of the panels because I want you guys to support the comic, but basically the last one was just Calxiyn helping her get out of the house and all that stuff. And now she's at her mother's menagerie. Now this is what confused me, right? Is that apparently right across from the menagerie is some sort of boat area, and so I'm like, where the fuck is this in Atlas? But anyway, we're just gonna ignore that part, because I saw the faunus, and I was like, wait a second, like, has the menagerie that Weiss's mom had, like, is this a metaphor, and those are all actually human faunus in there? Like, that would be pretty fucked. Like, I thought that at first, you know, there would be a panel like this where Weiss is looking at, like, animals, but then you would see it's actually a bunch of polar bear faunus in a cage. Like, that's what I was thinking. And so that's the first part of the comic that I would, I guess, criticize, is that this is very confusing, because you can see, I guess, the cages behind Weiss, but I'm like, where is this exactly? Like, I didn't understand, like, how these two scenes were really connecting to each other, I guess, but anyway. And so you have, like, Weiss trying to help the animals, and then you have this scene over here with the faunus, and so, you know, they want them to be strong so they can work in the labor camps, I guess, is basically the idea with that. And so, yeah, I don't know, like, it's just a little weird, like, how these two scenes are connecting to each other, and I don't quite understand. Oh, I do like Weiss's cape, though. That's great. Like, this is some very, like, I guess it's more Little Red Riding Hood vibes than Snow White vibes, but this reminds me a lot about other interpretations of Snow White, like, outside of Disney, like a more Snow White and the Huntsman type thing, or even, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Belle's outfit in Beauty and the Beast when it snows, and, like, even at the Disney parks, sometimes when it's, like, winter, like, characters will have, like, winter versions of their outfit, so it was really like Disney Princess with the coat. I really like it. But anyway, and so, you know, it's time to break the cages and stuff like that. So that's what Weiss is doing. And so her mom says, sneaking away like a thief in the dead of night. And then you have Mama Schnee, who's also wearing a cape. And I feel like this is a very good contrast, I guess, because this looks like sketchy as hell. Like, this looks like, I know this is gonna be such a weird comparison, guys, but this looks like some Voldemort type, I don't know, I haven't really watched Harry Potter very much, but like the Death Eaters or whatever they are, I don't know, it just, like, this is creepy as fuck. Like, it reminds me, like, very Star Wars, Harry Potter type, like, cloaked people vibes, if that makes sense. I don't know. And so, you know, she says she's been abandoned by Winter, right? We understand that. Winter went into the military. Abandoned by Whitley, and I think that's because Whitley obviously favors Jacques more, and then even by your father. And so, you know, they talk about that. No matter what I give you, you all still leave me in the end. And so I feel like that this is really interesting, because I'm still mixed on Willow's, characterization in the comic. Like, I'm still very mixed on how I feel about it, but it seems like that, in a sense, she does, I guess, think that material objects can fix everything, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, she still has a similar attitude to Jacques, where you can buy your children. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's sort of the idea right there, and so, yeah, and so she says, mother those faunus, I'm gonna set them free. And I was just like, what? Convict labor. So I'm guessing that that means that they have been arrested for something. And so it used to bother me too, but they're rabble-rousers, political prisoners, you know the sort, perfectly legal, your father assures me, and your father knows best. Right, so this is scary. I get why they brought the faunus into it. I still don't understand where exactly they are, but again, that's very interesting, because in the last comic I sort of talked about how the faunus racism situation was a lot more nuanced, and now we get something that, you know, again, should have been in the show, maybe should have been in Volume 7, we could have talked about convict labor, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I think that this is definitely an interesting detail to sort of add, because everybody's like, how does the She Need Us company get away with stuff like this? And I guess this is how, because it's perfectly legal, like, thanks Ironwood, like, what the fuck? Because I'm guessing they're convicted by, you know, the police and all that stuff, and that's Ironwood, so I'm like, perfectly legal. Ironwood, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, hello, like, maybe we should look into that more, and that this could have been a part of Robin's, like, political campaign, you know, to, like, stop this, and, like, we didn't get a lot of information about that, so, yeah, that's sort of, like, my thought on that, that's very interesting, but definitely should be in the show. As I've learned, there's nothing I'll ever be able to do to make you love me, and I feel like that's the whole problem, is that she wants to force them to love her by giving her things and all of that, by, like, giving Weiss things she thinks that is going to, you know, get her love instead of earning her love, like, as a parent. And I really like this line, and I like it in the context of, again, I don't think that I really like Weiss's mom's characterization in the comic, but I like the line, if they're going with this characterization, being the victim of a cycle doesn't excuse you from trying to break out of it. Right? And so, you know, I do like this, though. How can you judge me after all I've had to endure? Because I feel like that, to an extent, they're right, like, Weiss's mom is right about that, but Weiss is also right. Because I feel like that since the comics, that's been a debate in the fandom. Like, a lot of people see Willow as very, you know, innocent in all this, because obviously she is a victim of Jacques' abuse. And so on one hand, I do, like, understand, like, how can you judge me after all I've had to endure, right? But then on the other side, you have people saying, well, you know, being a victim doesn't mean you perpetuate abuse onto the other children, right? But the thing is, I guess in the show, Weiss's mom is, like, there's no hint of this being her true personality. I guess by Volume 7 she's changed, but it definitely makes more sense to argue this for the comic rather than the show, because in the comic it's very clear that she has some messed up ways of trying to win people's affection, and I think that's really interesting because Weiss's father was only in it for the Schnee name, and now I feel like Willow has this warped perception where everybody's after her for material objects, and the only way that she can, you know, win the love of her children is by doing the exact same thing to them that Jacques did to her, that he was only after her for the, you know, material goods, if you want to call it that, and she will bribe her children with those said material goods. Do you understand what I mean? Like stuff like a menagerie, like things that you can hold as possessions and all that stuff. And so, yeah. You care more about strangers than your own mother. Do you have any idea what happens to girls to women who disobey at the Schnee Manor? So see, that's another thing, is that I feel like that this is not supposed to be a black and white issue in the comics. I feel like you're not supposed to side with Willow, and you're not supposed to necessarily side with Weiss. It's not a black and white issue. It's very complicated and very gray, and I feel like that's something that the RWBY fandom doesn't understand sometimes. Maybe it's just Twitter, but sometimes we want things to sort of be neatly, like, separated, you know, and wrapped in, like, cute little bows. Does that make sense? Like, we, you know, want to sort of sanitize these sort of narratives of abuse, but I think both can be true, that terrible things happen to Willow, but that doesn't excuse her from the things that she's doing, and that there's an underlying sort of issues that Willow has. Does that make sense? Right? But, you know, I think that there are people that are like, well, you know, if they say that, like, Willow is at fault, they're victim blaming, when it's not that easy, it's not that clear cut of a situation, you know, like people that will get, like, outraged about and stuff like that. And sometimes it's justifiably outraged, but I think in this case, it's not that they're like, oh, Jacques did nothing wrong, they're victim blaming and it's all Willow's fault. It's like, Jacques did stuff wrong. Jacques fucked her up. She probably needs some psychological help, but that doesn't excuse her actions and what she has also done. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily like this, oh, Willow is good, except for, I guess, again, in the show. In the comic, they have a lot of more of a sort of nuanced take of, like, Willow and her character, but in the show proper, it's like she's an alcoholic, but she doesn't seem abusive in the scenes which she has with Weiss. It's more in the comic where you really see all of this stuff going down, and there's some debate. Like, we know that the comics are canon according to the writers, but it's hard because there are people that will never see these comics, and so what is the true characterization of Willow, we'll just have to see based on what actually happens in the show. Like, this is a good sort of guideline for what we may see in the future, but if she's already changed, she would have to reference to these past events and say, like, hey, I realized that you were right and I was wrong, and, you know, I've changed now. That's why I put in the security cameras to catch your father and get away, right? And so that, you know, that would be good, right? And so I like this. I'm so sorry for you, but I'm not your newest conquest. You want me to stay, mother? And so then they fight, because she's just like, prove it, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, make me proud, fight me, like, and then they fight, obviously. And so we see that Willow still has some summoning in her, right? And it's a bird, you know? I don't know what that represents. I mean, not really. I guess, I don't know, maybe like Willow's need to be free, so she made a giant bird with wings and stuff, and so they keep summoning, you know? And like, I really like these lines, like, everything we've done for you, every advantage, we've been given too much to stand aside and let evil things happen. I think that's Weiss that's saying that, and like, Willow is saying, like, we've given you everything, and Weiss is saying, because you've given us everything, I can't stand aside. You know what I mean? To have all these opportunities while other people suffer. I think that those are really, really good lines. Isn't that what you hoped to do with your family legacy before my father stole it, right? And so this is the turning point. So I think that basically what the comics are doing is setting up Willow from Volume 6, right? Because again, at first I was sort of very hesitant, and I was like, you know, I don't really, this characterization of Willow doesn't really match up with how she is in the show, even though this happened in Volume 4 and we see her in did I say Volume 6 or Volume 7? I don't remember, but you guys understand what I'm saying. And so I feel like that the idea is that this is the precursor to what happened, that Willow is turning good now. She is being the good that she wants to see, you know. That is why she has installed the cameras to sort of catch Jacques and all that stuff, because of this conversation with Weiss, that Willow, you know, obviously had a lot of issues in this comic, but now she is also trying to break free in her own way, and now she is free, and in Volume 8 we'll see what she does with that freedom, right? And so I think that that's really, really interesting. And so I really like this. No one belongs in a cage, mother. Not the faunus, not your animals, not me, and not you. And so I like that because, again, it addresses like, hey, I don't belong in a cage, neither do the animals that you are that you're punishing by keeping in a cage, but you are also a victim and you do not deserve to be in a cage as much as I do not deserve it, right? And so again, I feel like that we have to stop looking at this as like, oh, Willow's an evil, horrible person, you know, and oh, Willow's a cinnamon bun who never did anything wrong. Like, that is clearly not what the comic writers really want here. It's a bit more complicated than that, and I think that that's really the point, is that Willow does have good in her. She has just been psychologically damaged, if you want to call it that, and that good comes out in Volume 6 when she starts to be on the path. Volume 6. I said Volume 6 again. Volume 7, when she's on the path for the right thing. And so those two guards die because they try to, I guess they're not dead, they're just knocked out. They try to stop the animals, and the animals are like, fuck off, and then, you are my mother and I love you, because of and despite all this, I still love you. And so, you know, and then they leave on the boat. So I guess they just needed this dock to be here so they could all escape. But yeah, it's still a little weird. Like, I'm like, where is Weiss's mom's menagerie? Where is this boat? Like, anyway, we don't need to think about it. But yeah, she escapes with the faunus and with the animals. Does this give anyone some weird Noah's Ark type vibes? Like, I know there's 3 giraffes there, okay? I'm not judging. Like, they could be, like, polyamorous giraffes. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, and so I think that that's just really interesting that it's still not 2x2. We got some 3x3s going on here, but I don't know why. It reminds me of Noah's Ark, and I feel like that's very interesting to have a sort of biblical, I don't know if it was intentional, but like Noah's Ark's whole thing is like, you know, like, anyway, I can't, can I explain, do we have time to explain the story of Noah's Ark? It's just like there were bad people in the world, and so they flooded the world, but like Noah and the animals got to go on the boat. And like with Weiss's whole thing about, you know, it's obviously a simplified take, but with Weiss's whole thing about be the good you want to see, it's like she's like the Noah on the boat, and like they're like down below and like gonna drown in the water, except they're not, because they're gonna change too. You know what I mean? It's, I don't know, I just think a Noah's Ark reference. There we go. And so she abandons the coat, which explains why it's not in RWBY Volume 4. And so I really like this, but I love you, but I can't be the next stage in this cycle. So she is breaking the cycle of abuse. And I can't grow up to be you. Like, I really like all of these sort of lines, you know what I mean? You know, hurt people, hurt people. I think that that's actually a really good line, because, you know, I said in a couple of videos, like, this sounds pretentious and, like, dumb, right? Like, especially in the Maze comic review, I think I said that. But, like, these lines, like, they have definitely got better with the art quality and the quality of the dialogue. And I don't know if it was people's criticism, I don't know if they just got their act together, but the past 2 comics, other than the weird thing about, like, hey, where exactly is this dock, considering what we know of the Schnee Manor, like, that's a little thing, right? Like, I am willing to look past that for all of this. And so we have Snow Globe, Ozpin's book, and the, you know, the necklace. And I don't remember if Weiss loses her suitcase in Volume 4, or if she still has all this stuff. Like, I don't remember if when Raven kidnaps her, they take her shit. But I wonder if this book is gonna be, like, in any way important. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, guys, that is my sort of discussion about this comic. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that this was all, you know, pretty good. I think, like, the past 2 ones were pretty solid, to be honest. And I do want to see how they try to incorporate some of this stuff more in the show. I know it's hard because obviously this was in the past, but I mean, especially going on in the future, like, you have Jacques arrested, and then you have Willow sort of taking over. So will she be like, you know, Weiss, remember that one time when I, like, kicked your ass? Like, what if they have, like, a flashback scene of this part of the comic? Like, I feel like that some flashback scenes of the comic in Weiss's instance would be a really good idea. Like, I'm not saying they have to do that for, like, the Blake stuff, right? Because I feel like with Blake, like, it's already too late for that. But with the Weiss stuff, you know, I could see them doing a flashback where they, you know, show Willow and Weiss. What is wrong with my brain? I am a little bit scrambled for this one. I don't know why. Anyway, and so, you know, it'd be sort of interesting if in Volume 8 they do a flashback to this, if they have time. I don't know, right? Because, like, I don't know, Volume 8, it's, like, gonna deal with the invasion of Salem, but how long is that gonna take, really? You know what I mean? I mean, it could take 13 episodes, but I don't think they'll be dealing with that for all 13. Like, there's gonna be some other stuff, too, going on, right? So maybe some flashbacks will help pad some of these episodes. And, I mean, I guess with the Salem attack, like, you know, Willow wasn't exactly gonna, like, be like, I have taken over the Schnee-Dust Company. Like, thank you, Weiss. Like, you know, set me free. Like, I doubt we're getting something like that until after some of the Salem stuff is dealt with, because... you know, like, that would just be inappropriate to be like, well, the world's ending, but I'm the CEO of my company again. Yay! Okay, so yeah, that's basically it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys in the next one with hopefully my brain a little less scrambled. But you guys pretty much always know what I mean. I think you guys always understand me. So yeah, anyway, I will see you guys later. Bye!